Longevity is not just about genetics or how many years your ancestors lived. It's largely influenced by your daily choices, especially what you eat and how you store your food. While refrigeration has become a modern convenience and even a necessity for food preservation in many households, not all foods benefit from being stored in the cold. In fact, placing certain foods in the refrigerator can diminish their nutritional value, alter their taste, and even contribute to the formation of harmful compounds. For anyone interested in extending their lifespan and living a healthy life past 100, paying attention to how you store your food is just as important as what you eat. Over-reliance on refrigeration is a hidden mistake many health-conscious people make. Not everything belongs in the cold. Some foods are naturally preserved or thrive at room temperature. When placed in the fridge, their structure, flavor, or nutrients can break down or change in ways that aren't always obvious at first glance. The goal is not to return to a world without modern appliances but to use them wisely and know when they're doing more harm than good. Take tomatoes for instance. These vibrant red fruits are packed with lycopene, an antioxidant strongly linked to reducing the risk of chronic diseases like heart disease and cancer. When you refrigerate tomatoes, their cell membranes begin to break down, resulting in a mealy texture and a dull flavor. Cold temperatures also reduce the enzyme activity that helps develop the rich taste of ripened tomatoes. That's why tomatoes stored on the counter taste better than those kept in the fridge. Not only is the taste affected, but the nutritional value may also decrease. A tomato allowed to ripen naturally at room temperature develops more antioxidants and nutrients, especially when exposed to sunlight. So if you're aiming to optimize your diet for a longer, healthier life, keeping tomatoes out of the fridge is a small but meaningful step. Another food that suffers from refrigeration is garlic. This pungent bulb is known for its powerful medicinal properties, including anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and even anti-cancer effects. Allicin, the main active compound in garlic, forms when garlic is crushed or chopped and exposed to air. However, when garlic is stored in the fridge, moisture can cause it to sprout prematurely or become rubbery. The cold and damp conditions also dull its flavor and potency over time. Sprouted garlic is not harmful per se, but the sprouts tend to taste bitter and may indicate that the garlic is losing its best qualities. Furthermore, excessive moisture in refrigerated garlic can encourage mold growth, especially if it's stored in a plastic bag or airtight container. For optimal health benefits, garlic should be kept in a dry, dark place at room temperature, where it can breathe and stay potent. Bread is another everyday food that shouldn't be refrigerated if you want to maintain both health and taste. Many people refrigerate bread to extend its shelf life, not realizing that cold temperatures actually speed up the staling process. This happens because refrigeration accelerates a process called starch retrogradation, where the starch molecules recrystallize and harden. The result is dry, crumbly bread that lacks the softness and chewiness of fresh loaves. While this might not seem like a big deal, stale bread often leads to waste or encourages people to consume it with more butter, jam, or spreads to mask the dryness, potentially leading to excess calorie intake. Additionally, the preservatives and additives used in store-bought breads to compensate for staling can have long-term effects on gut health. The better alternative is to keep bread at room temperature for short-term use and freeze it if you need to store it longer, taking out slices as needed and toasting them to restore texture and taste. Bananas are another food people commonly refrigerate without realizing the consequences. When bananas are exposed to cold temperatures, the enzymes responsible for ripening slow down dramatically. As a result, the peel turns brown or even black, while the inside may remain underripe or become mushy. The cold disrupts the fruit's natural ripening process, preventing it from developing its full sweetness and nutritional potential. Bananas are rich in potassium, vitamin B6, and fiber nutrients that support heart health, digestion, and energy levels. These nutrients are best preserved when the fruit is allowed to ripen naturally at room temperature. Moreover, the chilling effect can alter the natural sugar content of the banana, making it less effective as a healthy energy source for active adults and the elderly alike. For those looking to live to 100, relying on foods in their most natural state, with minimal interference, can help ensure consistent nutrient intake and digestive harmony. Honey is another misunderstood item when it comes to storage. Due to its natural composition, honey is one of the few foods that never spoils when stored properly. However, placing honey in the fridge causes it to crystallize and harden. This process makes it difficult to scoop or pour and may tempt people to microwave it, which can destroy its beneficial enzymes and antioxidants. Honey, particularly raw and unfiltered varieties, contains antibacterial and antiviral compounds that support immune health and may help with seasonal allergies and wound healing. Refrigeration robs honey of its natural flow and texture and complicates its use in daily health routines, whether stirred into tea or spread on toast. The better choice is to store honey at room temperature in a tightly sealed container away from direct sunlight. This preserves its health properties and makes it easier to use as a daily health booster. Potatoes are a staple food in many cultures and an excellent source of vitamin C and B6, potassium, and complex carbohydrates. But they are another example of a food that should never be kept in the refrigerator. Cold temperatures convert the starch in potatoes into sugar much more quickly, resulting in an unpleasantly sweet taste and a gritty texture when cooked. What's more concerning is that when refrigerated potatoes are later roasted or fried, the excess sugars can react with the amino acid asparagine to form acrylamide, a potentially harmful chemical that has been linked to cancer in animal studies. For those aiming to live long, healthy lives, reducing exposure to toxins and harmful compounds is just as important as increasing nutrient intake. Instead of refrigerating, potatoes should be stored in a cool, dry, and dark place such as a pantry or a kitchen cabinet. Avoid sealing them in plastic bags, which can trap moisture and promote mold or rot. Letting them breathe is essential to their shelf life and your well-being. Onions, while often lumped in with potatoes in storage strategies, actually require a slightly different approach, but still shouldn't be refrigerated. Cold and moist environments can cause onions to soften, sprout, and become moldy. When placed in the fridge, the moisture can seep into their layers and cause them to turn slimy or even rot from the inside out. This not only affects taste and texture but can also promote the growth of bacteria. Moreover, the strong odor of onions can permeate other foods stored nearby, particularly in poorly sealed refrigerators. Onions have been prized for centuries for their anti-inflammatory and antibacterial properties. They're rich in antioxidants like quercetin, which supports immune function and reduces oxidative stress in the body. To keep onions fresh and potent, store them in a well-ventilated area at room temperature, away from potatoes, as the gases they emit can speed up spoilage. Keeping onions dry and separate allows their full health benefits to remain intact, contributing to a diet that supports long-term wellness. Finally, coffee may not be a food in the traditional sense, but it is consumed daily by millions and has significant health implications, especially when looking at its antioxidant profile. Ground coffee and even whole beans should never be refrigerated. The fridge exposes coffee to fluctuating temperatures and humidity, which causes condensation inside the packaging and leads to premature spoilage or flavor loss. Coffee is hygroscopic, meaning it easily absorbs moisture and odors from its environment, including from other refrigerated foods. This dulls its flavor and undermines its natural antioxidant content. For those relying on their morning brew not just for a wake-up call but also for its liver protective and brain-boosting properties, this loss in potency is a big deal. Coffee is best stored in an airtight container in a dark, cool place, preferably in a pantry or cabinet away from heat and light. When stored properly, it retains its oils, aromas, and benefits, helping support a daily habit that may even contribute to reduced risk of neurodegenerative diseases over time. Each of these 8 foods tells a story, not just a story of flavor and convenience, but of health, tradition, and how we've gradually distanced ourselves from nature's design. By returning to simple storage practices, by letting tomatoes ripen on the counter and keeping garlic in a breathable basket, we reclaim more than taste, we reclaim our health. Modern refrigeration was a marvel of its time, a tool of preservation that changed how we eat and live, but even great tools must be used with discernment. Living to 100 isn't about avoiding every risk or following rigid rules. It's about being mindful of small, everyday choices that add up over time. Something as simple as where you store your bananas or how you keep your bread can quietly shape the kind of life you live, the energy you feel, the strength you maintain, the diseases you avoid. When these choices become habits, they create a rhythm of health that supports your body in subtle but powerful ways. And so we are reminded that longevity is a mosaic of micro decisions. Avoiding refrigeration for certain foods is a gesture of respect for their natural state and a sign of commitment to your body's optimal function. As we age, digestion slows, metabolism shifts, and the need for high-quality nutrition becomes even more essential. Preserving the integrity of your food by storing it properly is part of that journey. Imagine your pantry not as a backup storage area but as the heart of your home's wellness system. Each item placed there with intention and care adds to a life that's not only longer but also fuller, richer, and more connected to nature's rhythms. If you want to live to 100 or beyond, let that process begin not with a radical change but with a humble tomato left to ripen on the windowsill. Let it begin with choices that trust your senses and honor the wisdom of tradition. The refrigerator is not your enemy, but it is not always your friend either. Know the difference. Let your food live so you can live better and longer.